Okay, the time is now 5:02. I'm going to go ahead and call this joint extraterritorial zoning committee meeting with the town of Sugar Creek and the city of Elkhorn to order. Um, Establish a quorum. Could I have a roll call, please?
Sure. Robers,
Yes.
Wetke,
Here.
Steinfest,
Here.
Wetke,
Here.
Stacko,
Here.
Boardman.
Here.
Wonderful, thank you. I will also entertain a motion and action to name a chairperson for tonight's meeting.
Make a motion for Jim Borman to be chairman.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Jim, you can take it over from here. Thank you.
First thing on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the January 4th meeting with the town of Sugar Creek.
Motion to approve.
Motion, we have
Second that.
a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Item 5, discussion of the initial presentation of adopted City of Elkhorn and Town of Sugar Creek future land use plans. Allison, you,
I will have our city planner, Lee Brown from Tesca, begin.
Good evening. What we're going to try to do is identify the similarities and the differences between what the city's long-range comprehensive plan says and what the town of Sugar Creek's long-range plans say. Where we can do that, it allows us to identify similarities versus differences, if I speak into the mic. Thank you. Again, we're going to look to identify what the land uses that are identified on the city's comprehensive plan, long-range land use, future land use map indicates for the area, and then compare that to what we have from the town of Sugar Creek. If you can scroll down to the So the comprehensive plan includes goals, objectives, strategies, and ultimately recommends land uses for every parcel within the city and gives a sense also of what future land use can be on the periphery outside of the boundaries of the city. The graphic that you're seeing right now is the land use map, color-coded. Generally, these are the same system used nationally, which is that the yellow is low-density residential, that there are other uses, including medium density, which is sort of the orange or brown, depends on the graphics. Commercial uses are in red, and there are uses that are either mixed or office and retail, and that's sort of pink. Purple is an industrial district. Green for parks, blue for municipal or institutions, and vacant. Now, those colors are all shown within the boundaries of the city of Elkhorn. If you can rotate down further, this graphic gives more about on the outside of the community, growth areas outside of the city of Elkhorn. And so it categorizes 3 different kinds of areas. The yellow being future complete residential neighborhoods, the growth of neighborhoods and neighborhood districts. The purple being industrial and business park areas. And in this case, it looks sort of peach, centers for commercial and small business uses. So what you can generally see is that the comprehensive plan calls for infill development within the city of Elkhorn to fill in spaces that are underused or vacant, and then grow naturally from its periphery outward in contiguous manner, meaning that it would discourage growth that would be far away from the city and disconnected so that people needed to travel long distances to get into commercial services or other activities, employment, churches, et cetera. And so it does that by looking at corridors where high travel districts can be supported, or greater density along those existing heavier roadways, and much lower densities in areas that are further from the core of the city of Elkhorn. Why don't you rotate a little more?
Go down further.
I'm sorry? There we go. So this land use map, a future land use map, goes beyond the boundaries of the city of Elkhorn itself. So the red line indicates the city's boundaries at the time of the adoption of this long-range plan. And so you can see that there are areas to the northwest in the town of Sugar Creek that are identified primarily as low-density residential uses extending away from the existing boundaries of the city of Elkhorn. And then beyond that, there's largely two other tones or two other land use groupings out there. The largest of which is essentially agricultural preservation districts or agricultural use. You'll also see some green or green dashes, which indicate that those are environmental corridors because of their being adjacent to creeks or fens or wetlands, and those are encouraged to remain as environmental corridors. In fact, the county itself includes those same green areas, those same environmental corridors in its long-range plan as protected areas, some of which are identified as highly sensitive environmental districts. There are also several areas in the town of in the town of Sugar Creek outside of the boundaries that are shown as either residential yellow or farmstead, where existing farmers, existing property owners have their homes and their facilities to support their agricultural use of the property. So that in general is the intent shown in the comprehensive plan to allow for reasonable growth, expanding out of the city of Elkhorn, to encourage it to be an extension of the existing roadway system in its grid pattern and its connections to commercial and other uses, and to do that in a way that it stays largely growing incrementally out of the core of the city of Elkhorn. How about I stop for questions?
So what you're saying then is if you want to just take this land for residential, you can take it from people, or?
Not at all. This is a guide towards the decisions of individual property owners and the city as a whole, which is to say, if a property owner who owns something that is currently farmed, this gives guidance as to whether it makes rational sense to develop that for something other than just the agricultural use that it is now. The hope is that if it develops according to this plan. But this is not zoning. This is not a controlling regulatory tool. This is a guide for decision making. The difference is municipalities put in place, either through its existing zoning or working with towns on its periphery, zoning to encourage this same type of development in a logical extension of the development that's shown in this map. It is, again, not a regulatory tool, but leads to what we use zoning to encourage.
It's a comprehensive plan,
It is a comprehensive
and
plan.
you have to follow the comprehensive plan. I just want everybody to know the town's not interested in this.
At all.
So I just want everybody here to be aware that we had a meeting with those
Members, citizens?
noticed and citizens of the town of Sugar Creek, and they're not interested in this. So we can take the time on this if you want to, or we can adjourn. That's your choice. We can waste our time, but the town is not interested in this.
Would the town like to identify the land uses it wants to see out in this area?
No, town's not interested. Town wants to leave it the way it is.
Good.
Well, this board, our members, this was not a directive from us. We're on the board because we're on the plan commission. But as I understand, once this has been started, it's there for 18 months, am I correct?
That's
Yes.
correct.
That's correct.
And after 18 months, it would expire.
Correct.
And then this board cannot, or the city cannot pursue it for another 5 years.
Correct.
Okay. So what you're saying is you just want to not come to another meeting?
I think that's what,
More or less. Pretty much, yeah, exactly.
I mean, I think that was the agreement that, you know, we would like to see, because our township, the people that we represent, that's what they asked for.
Yes.
I understand, because my house is only 600 feet from Sugar Creek, so. Well, with that, I guess there was really no sense of pursuing this any farther.
Exactly.
As a representative from the city, I will just say that we will continue to encourage you to participate in this because regardless of if we do this now or in 5 years, every opportunity we have, we will try and pursue an ETZ with Sugar Creek. It is crucial to the future development of the city of Elkhorn. So we will continue to encourage you to participate throughout that 18 months. And I believe if you would like to make a motion to adjourn, you could do so.
Before that's done, can I ask a question of Lee?
sure.
You made a point of saying a few minutes ago, this is not a regulatory matter, it's not enforcement, something that we could, and I also was curious and like,
Yeah.
you can't hear me? Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, so there was a question a minute ago about we can just take someone's land, and that's a common misconception, not only about ETZs, but about zoning and annexation issues in general. So I wanted to maybe have you speak to that issue so that the people here are not basing their opinions on false information, so that they know that this is something that would, I mean, I don't think it benefits township citizens if they want to develop their property in a certain way, and then the city's developing property heading out to our borders in a certain way, and those ways don't mesh well. It would make sense for both entities to work together to do that, because what's going to happen is that landowner is going to ask for annexation, typically, to the city, and I want to make sure that everybody understands the underlying issues here, and I'm not sure that's the case.
My clients understand the issues.
Very much.
Absolutely. So,
Well, for the benefit of the city's representatives, we use long-range land use plans for the purpose of making good decisions about public investments in utilities, utility extensions, about where public services are provided. And with regard to the use of property, we don't use the comprehensive plan directly, we use it indirectly to advise decisions on zoning. Zoning is a tool by which one property owner is protected from the uses of the adjacent property owner through a requirement that a district, a zone, have uses that are largely similar to each other so that their impacts on one use towards the next property owner are similar. So that a residential property owner, a homeowner, can have some ability to depend that the adjacent property is not going to create so much noise, so much fumes, so much parking and activity that it reduces the quality of life on their property. And so a community uses zoning to regulate how property is used. The city has the authority to regulate the use of property within its boundaries. That regulatory authority gives the city no power to acquire property. It is not the power of eminent domain. It is the power of regulation. so that individual property owners can use their property to the best of their ability within the constraints that zoning provides. Single-family zones are used for single-family. In fact, in Elkhorn, single-family and two-family units are allowed in the same zoning district. Multifamily is not allowed in a single-family zone, so that an apartment building is not built in the middle of a residential single-family district. Industrial uses are not built in the middle of a single-family district. That all protects property owners. And by way of long-range public participation in a planning process, the city decides its future and gives guidance to both existing elected officials and future elected officials about what's the best way to grow, what's the best way to provide services to individual properties, where should the roads be, and how do we do this in a way that we reduce the overall cost of providing good service to our community.
And I addressed that on our side of the table once. You know, you say that you're trying to do it in association with the neighboring people. Did anybody in Boss Road ask the farmers out there if they wanted houses across the street from them? No. You know, it's just, Joe, I was just saying, you're saying that, but you're going on your way, but not on our way.
Our public process for adopting comprehensive plans require multiple public meetings with open invitations for the public to participate and give their opinion.
And then these people built houses right across the street from a farm, and now they don't like a farm being there. That don't make any sense. That's just common sense, I'm sorry.
If I could just make a couple comments piggybacking off of what Ward indicated and Lee indicated. So my name's Elaine Ekus, and I'm special counsel to the city on zoning related matters. The opportunity for planning to occur as a part of the ETZ process provides a forum for the town and the city to come together to make some agreements about what those property uses will be in that area, rather than having potential uses thrust upon them, as Ward indicated, by a situation where you have a developer come forward and ask to become a part of the city because they want to develop the property and perhaps they don't like the direction the town has gone with that particular property. And if the town meaningfully participates in the ETZ process, hopefully the end product would be essentially an agreement between the town and the city about those future uses. And as Lee indicated and as Steve indicated, the comprehensive plan informs the decisions on future zoning uses of property, and the municipalities are supposed to act consistent with that comp plan. And that's the way the rules have been set by statute. And so this is an opportunity for the municipalities to come together to say, we really want to see these kinds of uses, and then reach an agreement about those and put that plan into place, instead of the alternative where something might be thrust upon you, either via a property owner who's decided they don't want to stay in the town anymore and they're going to come over to the city, or a plat that comes forward and the city has the right to exercise extraterritorial platting jurisdiction on other authorities to guide and have influence over the decisions that are made outside of the boundaries of the city. So this is an opportunity, and at least from my vantage point, I think it's an opportunity that should be explored, and the conversation should happen, and only meaningful planning can happen out of those conversations. So again, not having these things thrust upon you, which can happen. Different parts of the town might be upset that a property owner might want to split from the town and become part of the city, and you might have something thrust upon you that you're not happy with anyway. So rather than have a process last and linger for 18 months where nothing happens in that area, have the conversation, see if you can come together and reach some agreement about some of those areas. That would be, I think, the city's request, is to have the conversations, because sometimes you can find some consensus.
I feel that from the town of Sugar Creek, we've had that conversation the other week. We had that conversation, and you can see the amount of constituents that are in here today. A lot of these people are in this extraterritorial zoning, and they know what we're talking about, and they know if they wanna come into the city, what their risk could be. I mean, I think that's well known. They've made the decision and asked us, the township, to stay the course, to stay with what the township has planned. And if that takes us 18 months, that takes us 18 months.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what you're saying now, we're at a stalemate, you don't want it, I'll put the ball in your court, it's up to you. If you want to close the session, go ahead.
Yep. I'll make a motion, we close the meeting for today.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Rovers,
Yes.
Watke,
Yes.
Steinfest,
Yes.
Watke,
Yes.
Stocko,
Yes.
Boardman.
Yes. Motion carried. Meeting's adjourned.